Okay, so I think most of the people are already there, so we are going to start. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Marisol Castro. I'm a communication manager at ADOL, and I will be moderating the event today. First of all, I would like to let you know that the event is being recorded, and it will be shared with all the attendees after the event. So today's SERIGO webinar is on women pathways to work and empowerment in rural Europe. This is part of a SERIGO project that I know that some of you are familiar with, because you are part of the community of practice, but we have some newcomers as well. So I would like to briefly introduce you. SERIGO is a EU-funded project, Horizon, that we are focusing on researching and testing social innovations, in particular those implemented by the social economy actors that improve the social inclusion of vulnerable groups in rural areas. This webinar, as I said, is part of the community of practice, that is a network of people that we come together to learn and share knowledge, learn from each other, and you are all welcome to join us as well. My colleague Anne will share the link to register in the chat for those of you who are still not a member, so you can be part of SERIGO as well. So to start with the topic of today's webinar, rural areas across Europe face complex challenges like demographic shifts or access to services, risk of isolation and unemployment. But among those particular risks of exclusion are women, and in particular, women that are from marginalized groups. Just as an example, in 2023, 69% of all women working age living in rural areas in the EU were unemployment. But the unemployment rate for men living in rural areas was considerably higher, 80%, resulting of a gender gap of 11%. This gender gap in employment rates was wider for people living in rural areas than for the population as a whole. So women living in rural areas have more difficult to find work, or the necessary conditions for some women to be at the workforce are missing. So here in this event today, we would like to ask ourselves, how do community-led grassroots initiatives support women's confidence and sense of agency? And how can we make sure that these skills development programs support women in situations at risk of exclusion? And how can we also develop gender-responsive rural development strategies and policy for rural settings? So I would like to move on and share with you the agenda. We have 3 sessions, but unfortunately, I would like to let you know that one of the speakers couldn't make us. She has to cancel because of sick at the last very minute. So we will have more time for discussion. And yeah, this is the agenda for today. We will hear from practitioners in the first session, and then in the second session we will hear from other EU projects experiences. So yes, just to start, I would like to ask you to write in the chat 1 or 2 words about what are your expectations for today, seeing the agenda. What would you like to learn? Please, I invite you to use the chat to ask questions. We will have Q&A slot after each presentation. And you can also raise your hand and we will allow you to introduce your question or comment, etc. Feel free to participate. And then I will stop sharing. And I would like to introduce our first speakers. So the first session is Sara Kutja, I don't know if I'm pronouncing well, and Marcel Lochner. So Marcel, I think you are here with us. We are going to start with you. So the theme of this panel is to introduce the webinar, to introduce the topic of today. So it's self-organization and community empowerment as the first steps toward integration, the role of local context and collective action, and empowerment beyond employment, confidence, belonging, and agency. And Marcel, he's our colleague in SERIGO. He's the head of department of Asylum, Migration and Integration and Diaconie de la Tour in Carinthia, Austria. He's leading the pilot implementation of SERIGO in this area and supporting migrant women with classes and a multicultural garden. And he will be accompanied as well with Melanie Sucher. I'm so sorry for the pronunciation. She is working as project staff in this pilot. And I would like to invite Marcel to share your screen and to please, the floor is yours so you can start. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I think you should see the slides. Is that correct?
Yes, we can see the slide.
Right. Okay, so yeah, I will start. Thank you for the kind introduction. As Marisol said, Melanie and me will present together because, well, since I can only share so much about a female perspective on the topic, I asked one of the female project staff to add to a survey we took actually with the women on the central question of today's topic, meaning women's pathways to work and empowerment in rural Europe. As said before, we are one of, I think, 5 pilot actions across Europe, taking part in Austria and focusing on refugee and migrant women in southern Austria. Yeah, about us as an organization, we are an NGO, a faith-based organization of Austrian Protestant Church, to be more precise. Our department exclusively takes care of issues from migrants, disadvantaged people in general. So we're tackling poverty and refugees especially. As I said, we are based in southern Austria. That's, for those of you who don't know the area, that's a very rural and mountainous area. So I think according to the EU, like 94% of the state of Carinthia, where we are located, are classified as rural. So yeah, it doesn't get much more countryside than what we have here, I guess. Our department consists of 4 subdivisions. So we have a broad range of activities. Some of them contribute to the pilot action, some of them don't. In total, we are still quite small in comparison to the overall organization. Here, the department consists of 51 employees in 12 different projects or facilities, and we have around 3,000 clients per year. To the pilot. The pilot is located in Villach. For those of you maybe who are traveling around Central Europe, north to south, most likely you have crossed Villach maybe once when you went to Italy, coming from the north. It's next to the motorway. A big and quite old city, to be frank, quite a nice city. And we are on the north of the city we have a partner, an association, which is close to a church, and next to the church is an intercultural garden, which is part of the association, and that's where we are based. Target group I've already mentioned are migrant and refugee women with or without children, so we are open for catering to children as well, and that's quite important with basic German skills if possible. What is our target? Well, maybe mostly to provide, in cooperation with our partner, Rebola, which is the association I mentioned, basic literacy modules and workshops that's the easiest way to describe the whole pilot. to those refugee and migrant women from the area and to help them form a network within the region. How do we do that? What methods do we apply? Or what of those would we like to stress? Well, it's forming a network obviously relies on exchange, which means within the group, which is quite homogeneous, meaning mostly refugee and migrant women. Obviously, they're not all from the same countries. They're individual people and persons, but we're also focusing on an integrational aspect, meaning getting the group in contact with their surroundings, with the broader society as is in Austria or in Carinthia, which is also fostered by the association Rebola. The intercultural gardening says it already in the name, like some kind of exchange in an integrational manner is supposed to take place here. You're not obliged to participate. We have closed groups as well in different projects, but this group is more or less hop on, hop off. So there's no obligatory participation. There is some aspect power to self-organize that also goes very well along with the intercultural gardening, because if you don't tend for your garden, then nothing will grow there. So that's some aspect which we are trying to include. There is obviously peer learning. All the women share their experiences in the group. Everything is formed in a participatory way or manner, meaning that the women get to choose what workshops are being held, where excursions are taking place, where to be precise, and in all organizational modalities they are being asked to contribute. And after all, this is meant to have a sustainable impact. So after many of our services will end, we hope that women stay with the association Rebola, with the Intercultural Garden Project, and use this meeting space for their network later on. Currently, we have 12 to 15 participants per each group session. We have around 2 sessions per week. And we had around 31 individual people, women taking part so far in total. We started in May 2025, last year, and we expected to run until October this year. We ran into some trouble, so we had a relaunch. Since we are coming from a rural area, this place is also very nice. It's not so easy to reach, even so it's within the city limits of Villach, on the northern border of the city. That was an issue, for example, and a critical group size was also an issue, because once you are down to 1 or 2 people attending each session, you don't really have a group. And so we had to relaunch with a new group where the participation is much better since the relaunch. So in total, as I said, around 2-3 hour sessions per week makes for a total of 77 sessions planned. That's the minimum we want to reach. And the sessions consist of 1 session per week is the basic literacy module, where people learn German as a foreign language, math and IT skills. And the second session are those workshops. And additionally, I included some of the topics here in the parentheses. And additionally to those sessions, we provide excursions and the intercultural gardening. So about the women's pathways, and here, Melanie, feel free to join in whenever you want to. I try to keep some brief pauses at the end of each slide, so that there is room should you not be able to otherwise. Since we took the topic to heart and also the perspective of our clients, we asked them about the central questions of today's topic. So we just asked them in January now, what does it need for you to succeed in finding your own path in Austria? Bear in mind, those 12 to 15 women are all migrant or refugee women. And well, very broadly, they said, obviously, you could sum it all up, basically the whole paragraph in a positive attitude, basically. They said being open and adapting, which is a necessity when moving under those circumstances involuntary, often helps a lot. Setting personal goals, pursuing them step by step is something I want to highlight, because oftentimes you have quite frustrating circumstances accompanying those migrational biographies, where people have to wait for a long time for a certain outcome, have to wait for residency permits and so on, but we will come to that. Staying motivated despite those challenges and believing in their own abilities. I think, as I said, could all be summed up with a positive attitude. So that's how they find their own path. I don't know, Melanie, do you want to add anything to that side?
Yes, one important thing, as part of our workshop program, we included a simple and practical exercise to support self-reflection and strengthen self-awareness. We used a hand exercise as a visual tool. Each finger represented a personal strength, while the palm symbolized challenges or areas where support is needed. This activity helped the women recognize their abilities and understand that weaknesses are not failures, but opportunities for growth. Through this simple exercise, many women gained confidence and a stronger belief in themselves. And this is very important, I think.
Okay, thanks. So moving on to the what keeps people from advancing on their own personal path, and there, unfortunately, is quite a lot. There are quite a lot of hurdles, especially for refugees, but also for migrant women. Basically, for all refugees and migrants, regardless of the gender. The first and most common one is the language barrier, obviously. Language, German in our case, being a central part for integration. It's everything centered around that. You can't really do much here with a second language like English or French, since Austria is very German-centered in the labor market, in the daily life. Yeah, sure, you get around as a tourist for 1 or 2 days, but if you want to live here, basically you have to master the language to a certain degree. That's unfortunately very much a necessity. Insecurity regarding the residency status often wouldn't be necessary to my liking, but unfortunately is very much the case. Many people are forced to stay within an uncertain status for many years in many cases, not knowing how to advance, when to advance from this residency or asylum status they are currently in. Lack of or difficult access to information, well, that's a connection obviously to the language barrier, but also the amount of offers, the amount of quality information, of quality counseling accompanying people. Those offers are often not quite sufficient for the demand, which is actually there within the group. Long waiting periods for asylum decisions, I already mentioned, are a problem within itself, because if you are not allowed to take to enter certain thresholds in Austria, like the housing market or the workforce, then obviously that becomes a problem over time. As is mentioned in the lack of permission to work during the asylum procedure. Actually, it is possible to work during the asylum procedure, but the legal hurdles, the legal limits are set in a way where it seems impossible for many or most people to do so, actually. Loneliness, obviously, as an accompanying factor of not being able maybe to integrate as fast as many people would wish to, and obviously of just being displaced, not in the country of origin where maybe family and friends are still present. And difficulties in finding employment and or housing often not only associated with certain legal restrictions, but also obviously with discrimination of sorts. I don't know, Melanie, do you want to add anything to that slide?
I think the biggest problem is the waiting time for asylum decision, because it's too long. And this creates stress and make it hard to plan for the future. And so a big problem, I think.
Sure, yeah, we've had that over the last couple of years, many times. Mm-hmm. So ending with something positive, as you should, what helps them? What were the factors women identified for themselves within our group as being helpful on their journey, on their path? If you ask about support, first answer you receive is, supporting services, counseling centers. That's basically a little bit of a no-brainer. So everybody who helps is helpful in a way, surely. Language courses then, but also the opportunity to practice the language actually, which is something nowadays many people are seen learning on their smartphones, or if they have some, most do. But then again, the smartphone doesn't really talk back to you, even with AI or anything. In order to get really proficient, and we see that leap for most people over the years, you have to have some counterpart, maybe some native speaker. And this often happens when people actually join the workforce then, and on a daily basis, really take part in society in an economical way, at least. Patience, yes, unfortunately, we've talked about that. Encouragement, surely it's not useless. It does matter, in my experience, the longer the waiting periods were for clients, the more important this got, because many arrived with some kind of positive spirit because they've just finally arrived in the country they wanted to go to. But then over the years, it got to them that they still have the feeling, at least, of not advancing within their path or set goals. Guidance obviously is helpful, especially if it's quality guidance from social workers, from legal counseling, and so on. And just people who believe in them, not only them believing in themselves, and accompanying them on their journey. Melanie, do you want to add, or?
Yes, something. In my view, the main issue is not a lack of ability or effort, but a lack of access, time, and consistent support. Where guidance is clear, support is reliable, and the approach is human and respectful, women quickly gain confidence and orientation. This is exactly where our group programs make a difference, and where I see the greatest potential for long-term integration.
That's very true. There is unfortunately not enough. There aren't enough helpful services around to supply the demand, which is definitely there. So that's about it from our side. Melanie and me are now available for questions. If we still have time. I'm not sure. Nobody said anything, so I think we are still within time. Yeah.
Oh, hello. Yes, of course you're on time, perfectly on time. Thank you very much, Marcel and Melanie. I think it's very interesting what you are doing in the pilot, and also very interesting to know of this survey, that we can see their voice. So I would like to invite the attendees to us if they have any comment, or if they have any questions for Melanie or Marcel. You can use the chat to write the questions, or you can raise your hand. Okay, we have one hand raised.
Hello, my name is Annette.
Annette,
I'm so sorry.
okay.
Yeah, my computer camera is broken. That's why I cannot join you with my video. But the question is whether you are planning to provide some kind of documentation of your pilot in order to make it scalable for other countries who are facing common or similar problems or challenges.
if I may answer, yeah, sure. Since this is SERIGO, to me, first and foremost, is a research project. This pilot action is obviously accompanied by the University of Applied Science of Carinthia, and they actually do research on or within the project, and this research obviously is documented and hopefully will be published, maybe not only within the boundaries of SERIGO, but maybe even later on in different kinds of publications. But yes, we do document what we are doing, yeah.
Yes, maybe I can also comment on that, because we are leading the communication dissemination in SERIGO, that you can join our social media, follow us there, and join the newsletter, because we still have 2 more years of SERIGO, and we will continuously publishing reports, documentation, and as well, of course, in our community of practice. And we have a platform, a Teams platform, in which we will share also some information. And in fact, we are preparing a video that we will publish this year about the pilot in Carinthia, this one. So yeah, I will like to give now the floor. Can I ask you, Marcel, to maybe stop sharing your screen so people can see you better? Yes. And then I would like to give the floor to Blanca. I think she also has a question or comment.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Marcel, for sharing the results. My name is Blanca Casares. I will present later because I'm part of the Grass Ceiling Horizon Youth Project. I would like to ask if there is any lesson learned regarding the implementation of the qualitative methods, such as the surveys that you mentioned, in terms of how to translate, how to support the people to complete this survey, because I imagine even online is not easy because they need to be with someone to be able to complete these forms, and any lesson learned to conceptualize the use of this kind of methods with these target groups.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Melanie, one quick question. Did you actually, were you the one who surveyed the clients, or was it done by someone else?
So we have a documentation. I fill in Excel file. The documentation is the number of the participants, the volunteers involved, the number of children, guard work, yes or no. All this is in the Excel file. And before each session, we prepare the German classes and all the workshops based on the needs of the women and the topics that are relevant for their everyday lives.
Melanie, sorry to interrupt you, but I think what Blanca was asking about the survey which we presented, right? Like the questions to, the pathway survey. Did you?
It was circulated online or in paper, translated?
Yeah. So that's what I was, okay, Blanca, I get you right there. But Melanie, did you ask those questions to the women, or who did it actually? Because
yes,
I'm not sure.
Only I asked them, yes.
Yeah, okay, sure.
There was no sheet or anything else. Only it was like an interview.
Yeah, and what I might want to add to that, because we have those kind of, we're serving quite a lot of people for quite a lot of projects, and most of them are non-native German speakers. And what we found out over the years is the best measure is to do it verbally, and provide translation if necessary. So because, for instance, some of our clients may speak some German, obviously are fluent in their home language, in their native languages, but they might not be able to read or might not be able to write in their native languages. So translating something is very, very inefficient for those people, because, well, in the end, they might just get the verbal parts if someone reads it to them. And obviously, also very important, some survey might be very much misunderstood if there is, because you can't talk to a piece of paper. So if you have some interpreter or some source like Melanie who can answer a question like, okay, what do you mean with women's pathways? What does that mean? What does an obstacle mean? Can you paraphrase? Can you describe what's actually what it is you want to know? That was always very helpful. So sometimes we have a mixed measure where we have some survey when we sample larger populations, but then we always, while we are doing this survey, we're doing it sheet by sheet, and we always have an interpreter present to explain what's going on. And it's like you see this number 3 there, or we are at this question now. This question is about X, and yeah, I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. We can now give the floor to Alexandra.
Thank you very much. Hi, thank you so much, Melanie and Marcel. I'm Alexandra from ADL. I'll be very quick, very concrete, practical question. You mentioned transportation challenges. How did you overcome those?
Melanie, as far as I'm aware, we started to refund tickets for the public transportation. Is that correct?
Yes, this is correct. And this is very helpful because they have no money. All the women, they have nothing, only a little bit for each month. And so it's helpful to join our program.
We didn't, that's actually a little bit of it's a very simple solution.
Yeah.
One could also argue, why didn't you think of that first? Well, first we thought we have in a quite a limited circle around the pilot location. So only a few 100 meters away, there are actually refugee houses which we know of, or which we actually, which were our own institutions. And so we thought, well, that must not be a great hurdle to go there. But we were wrong in that regard. And we thought, okay, well, the people actually need help because some of the terrain there is quite rugged in the winter. So that made an exception. And people who wanted to use the bus, because it was easier for them with maybe bringing their children and so on and so on. We just figured, okay, let's pay for the public transportation to visit the group. And that made a huge difference, yeah. So that's a simple, very simple thing, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then I would like to give the floor to Adenike Alade. Please, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for this wonderful program. And I'd like to ask these questions. My name is Adenike. Sorry, I'm not able to, I think my chat is disabled. So I'm not able to type in on my chat, so sorry about that. So my name is Adenike Alade. I'm the project manager of Thrive Migrant Women in the Netherlands. So my question, these are the questions that I have. Number one, I want to find out from Marcel and Melanie, do you have a particular framework that activates your impact? I mean, what are the framework that is enhancing results that can also enable you to measure the impact on these women? Do you have a particular framework that you follow, like step-by-step framework?
So that's the first question, or should we answer?
Yeah, that's the first question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was an IOI analysis before the project took part. And as you might know, or as you might share my opinion in that regard, obviously measuring outputs and outcomes is easier than measuring the actual impact. So we were always very careful with our predictions for what impact that group might have. Yeah, so we can measure obviously the number of attendees, the number of classes we gave, the number of hours of classes we gave, the number of topics we covered, and so on and so on. We can see some of the outcomes and measure them as well. Yeah, like are there more women joining the group, or are they less and less participating? Are they mentioning and when they're being surveyed, are they themselves, are they saying that they feel empowered, that they feel more integrated, and so on and so on? So those statements we can all measure and get, but the overall impact of actually forming a network, a sustainable network between the women is, to be honest, is debatable if we can achieve that, and is harder to measure, to be honest, than most of the outcomes and outputs. So our framework is asking them, measuring some of the indicators we can, simple ones, to be honest, and about the impact, I would be very careful. We will see if we manage to create something sustainable with the group here. I hope this answers your question. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well, because I know there is an objective for your vision. I mean, like vision and mission of this SERIGO project, and I know there is an objective you want to gain. Like maybe you want them to learn language, or you want them to get a job or you want them to have a mental well-being. So the reason why I'm asking for the framework, like in the Netherlands, we have a framework like a VPN framework that we use from isolation to going out of the, from going out of the house to looking for volunteer job, from volunteer job to getting maybe a part-time job, and then finally to get work. That's the ladder we use in the Netherlands. So I'm wondering, and with that ladder, are we able to get them from isolation to becoming a volunteer, to learning the language or integrating the system? With that framework, we have the particular outcome we are expecting. So I'm just asking from you if you have something like that also works, so that maybe we can copy, we can get inspired from that. You understand what I'm saying? So we can learn from your side as well.
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned, the IOI analysis we did, which includes like which sets some inputs and then expected outcomes or outcomes, and then finally impacts. We have made an analysis step by step. You can also visualize it in some kind of stairway if you wish to, that we have for the project. I'm not sure if you can share it, but I don't see any reason why not. Yeah, sure. So that would be our framework as far as I get you, and that's something we could share. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the second one is, do you also have the cross-cultural, like interstate twinning, in case we want to come to Austria to learn from you physically? Can we come with our women to learn some things?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're always more than welcome. I'm not sure budget-wise how much we can accommodate. That would have to be discussed, but our doors are surely open. So if you can manage to get here, then you are always welcome. Sure. Yeah.
Okay, then I will get your details later and maybe send you some.
You're very welcome. And my contact information was on the last slide, and I think, Marisol, the slides are shared in some way after the sessions. Yeah.
Okay, I tried to look for you on LinkedIn, but I saw another person on Lidl, manager of Lidl. I said, okay, that's not the person I'm looking for.
I'm not on LinkedIn. I'm not on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I can share so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In fact,
Yeah.
yes, my colleague Anne, I think she shared the contact details of Marcel in this chat, so you can have it all there. We are sharing the contact of all the speakers for your information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we will move on to the next session. There is also one question or a couple of questions in the chat. Maybe you can have a look, Marcel, and maybe can reply there, or maybe we can we can have also a few more minutes Q&A at the end of the session. I think you are going to stay with us for the webinar, so maybe we will have some time as well there. So now I would like to invite and to introduce our next speaker, that is Sara. Not sure if we see Sara. Yeah, there you are. Okay. Hello, Sara. Well, she is founder of Cucilento. That is a tailoring upcycling laboratory, which I believe that she's going to briefly mention as well. But today she's going to present a Circe Association. It's a women collective whose aim is to promote women resilience, awareness, and empowerment. And she's also a FLIARA ambassador. That's how we met her. FLIARA is another EU-funded project that is they are promoting like women innovation in rural areas. So, well, the floor is yours. I think you are going to share also your presentation, so feel free to do it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I will try to share my presentation. I'm sorry, it's the first time I try to share on Team, so Finestra, and it will be...
Otherwise, we can share for you if you prefer.
I think it's, but I will just switch off everything that's open, so up here, and I think I will manage to do so. Okay, Finestra. Okay, are you seeing my presentation, looking at my presentation? Yes?
Yes, we see now full screen. Great, thank you.
I managed, that's good. So Circe, it's an association that is a group of women. So it started in December 2022 because women wanted to be together, and we were in a very remote area. We are in Cilento, which is not Salento. So it's in the Campania region. It's 2.5 hours south from Napoli on the same coast. We have some UNESCO sites. So you have Pestum, for example, which is a UNESCO site. And you have Pollica, who has been now declared as a the Mediterranean diet capital. Okay, so so to situate to have the location of where we are, and its area really expanded. So we just gathered 3 of us who followed the project of EWA, which was another EU program of empowering women in agri-food. And we discovered that we needed to start networking. So it started to be a collective of women, and in December, a year after, we created the association. So we registered the association. We are from different age and different social background and different educational backgrounds, okay? And our mission altogether was to develop the potential of women in the territory, to try to improve the creativity, to show more creativity inside the territory, because there were a lot of women, a lot of creative women who were completely hidden, and to empower women through the cooperation and the inclusivity inside the territory. So we started talking about all the forgotten crafts to encourage the knowledge exchange, but also the logistical support, you know, because we are living in a very remote territory, and sometimes you really need daily support on your daily life. So what happened next? We decided to create a manifesto and kind of rules to work, and to try to not do a copy paste of the association that usually exist in the territory. So we are not, I will say it, patriarchal. So we take the decision all together in a democratic and transparent assembly. And if we are not able to decide, we don't decide. So there is a kind of 6 people who are the directive for the administrative point of view. But we are a group of women decided together. And that's the first step of empowerment here. The conscious that you are part of a social movement, of a social group, and your voice is counting. This is really important. And after 3 years of existence, I can tell you that made the difference in every woman. And so we meet monthly. We are requiring all the volunteer to be active and conscious. So they have to read about the points we will discuss, to propose, to bring new proposals to the group to develop their territory, okay? Because you have the inside territory with the mountains and the coast territories with the sea and the middle with the agriculture. So all those women have different lives and different daily life. So they come with different proposals. Aside of that, there is another network, which is called Mondo Circe. There are 200 members, more or less, women. They are not part of the association, but they are participating to the associative activities that are proposed. What are the needs and the issues? So they are still the same. When I did the presentation, I was thinking, did something change? Has something changed and not? So you have a lot of resistance to change. Okay, it's a very remote area, not really contaminated. So that's have pros and cons. And the cons is that it's quite resistant to change. It's a lot of clientelistic mentality. There are few cultural opportunities. Road network is terrible. There is no public transport. It's really isolated. There is not also the culture of networking and cooperating. Okay, in other Italian region, there is a lot of cooperative, let's say, mentality or experiences. But in Cilento, it's not that much. There is no, actually. There is one, and that's the only one who's working. And there are few opportunity of dialogue on women issues, physical health, difficulty of accessing information, opportunity for work, for stable work. There is no social debate, I would say, okay? So all of that inside a major frame of Italy, unstable situation, okay, politically stable now, but economically completely failed. It brings also a lack of stable opportunity for your life, to have a paid job, to have a properly recognized job, and an opportunity to have dignity, I would say. So what will happen now with Circe? We gathered around all those problems and difficulties, and we started to propose activity to tackle what we consider the difficulties. And we started to do information meetings about topics that we are not really used to talk about. So, for example, mental health, physical violence, gender violence, economical violence. And we developed also reading group around feminist text and reflection. We started to do also events and rallies to propose a different social approach, how to be in the society altogether. We also started a cine forum last year, and we continued this year in some very small villages in the hinterland of Cilento. So it was quite a challenge to get the full room with some, the movie that are maybe not that mainstream, but it was quite a good success. We decided to also to work on women's solidarity for domestic violence with a program which is called the luggage of the first night. So it's we prepare bags with 1 week all you need if you have to escape from your house. So if you're women and you have to leave your house because you are a victim of domestic violence, you don't have the time, most of the time, to take all your belongings. You don't have the time to make a luggage, to make a bag. So we prepare bags with personal, with clothes, with hygiene products, with book, with even children, sometimes clothes and necessary, what's necessary for 1 week, so they can grab it at, there are some associations that are really taking in care and hiding the women from the violent person they are escaping from. And also the police is collaborating now. At the beginning, they were quite blocked on that, and they were quite closed on that, but then they discovered that was quite useful for the women who didn't have anything, and even sometimes not the credit card. So it's important. Then we also opened a reusable tableware library, so to implement a kind of environmental talk about plastic, disposable plastic, and on the same topic of environment and protection of environment. We also part of the swap party group in Italy. So that means that we exchange closed objects quite regularly. We do it once in every season and around in the territory. Of course, well-being, so and sports. So, for example, trekking only with women, or yoga classes. So we combine yoga and trekking in the same activity, so women can really gather, having a wonderful walk, because the territory is wonderful. And this year we have 2 main objectives, because since now we were completely nomads. We didn't have a permanent space, but we decided that we need a permanent space to start having a physical presence in one of the municipality. We will find a place where to settle, and it's a big challenge. So municipality do not support with free locals. So now we are looking for a local to rent. Considering that all our activities are for free, that means that the volunteers of the association will have to pay for rent every month altogether. So it will be something definitely strong for us to build our identity, but it's also very sad to discover that the community and the municipality do not support such activities. And on the other side, we want to increase partnership with other local organizations. For example, now we discovered we have a lot of volunteers that are also trying to run a small local library. And we decided to create the library network, so to have also maybe the possibility to take a book in one municipality and to give it back in another, for example, or book exchange or book reading for children. So to try to open to culture and open much more the cultural place, which is a way to fight what's happening in the world today. And those are our contacts, and that's it for me. I think it would be better if we exchange about this experience.
Great, thank you so much, Sarah, for your clear presentation. Also very insightful, and also good to see that you have your clear objectives for 2026.
Yeah, it's important.
Of course, yeah. I would like to invite the attendees, as well as in the previous session, to ask their questions in the chat, also to raise their hand if they want to comment on that or have a question.
I can start maybe. Sarah, hi Sarah, this is Alex from ADO. I was wondering at the very beginning, how did you come together? And yeah, how did that happen? And who were the very first? And how did you manage to bring in so many more?
So it started because when we were in the EWA program, EU program, we were 3 of us from Cilento. We were 10 women from Italy, and 3 of us were from Cilento. I was the oldest one. The other one was like 30, really early 30. And we discovered we had a problem to get proper information and to create network about very practical information where we were starting our business. So, for example, I couldn't find a proper lawyer or a proper person that could follow all the administrative part of creating a business. And another of other practical question in the territory. So we started to make network. And at a certain point, we discovered the power of network, but we were 3 of us. I am French. Another one, she is from Cilento, but the parents were from Cilento, but they migrated to Switzerland when before she was born. So she was born in Switzerland and studied in Holland, the Netherlands, and then decided to come back because she studied regenerative farming in the Netherlands. So she decided to come back to Cilento to get back the lands from the family and to also rent other lands to start cultivated in a regenerative way. And she was 25 at that time. And she got lots of difficulties because she was young and she was a woman. So we discovered that when you start creating network and supporting each other and finding people that could support you, even women older from the territory, it was easier. And women older from the territory found it very useful to have young, enthusiastic women as us to connect with. So we started just as a group of women who wanted to know each other and also to discover all the potential and the wise and clever women that were in the territory and were completely hidden. So talking among, each of us, maybe we had 20 other women to connect with, and talking to each other, we discovered so much power and potential that was completely hidden because alone. So to start being together, even, the first day, on the 8th of December, we were, I think, like 60 women in a room, all together in a circle to present, each of us. And it was so strong. Some of them told us it was the first time I go out without my family and I talk about me, and they were 50. So that's how it started. Then after a little bit, we discovered that in Italy, if you are not legally registered, it's difficult to go on. So we decided to create the association, and then it started to be heavy. So then other women jump on the train, and now we are maybe I would say the 30 of us that created the association who are still there. Okay, then some people go in, go out, but the rules to be a volunteer are really strict. So we want people to attend physically or online, to delegate with specific delegation, meaning that you've read what we are talking about and you give your, by mail or by WhatsApp message, you give your opinion. And you cannot be absent more than, I don't remember, 3 or 4 times a year. So we have a monthly meeting and you cannot be absent for more than 4 times, which is heavy because when you consider that we don't have a physical space, we move every month and we go in different places every month to do the meeting, and sometime you need an hour and 15 to go but that's the deal. So sometimes women go out of the group because they cannot like logistically attend or participate.
Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you. I would like to give the floor to Blanca for her question.
Thank you, Marisol, and thank you, Sarah, for your presentation. My question is based on experience from other organization of multi-actor groups and so on. If you had to implement any corrective or mitigation measure for any type of participant that you saw was not represented, for example, due to age, because the needs, the possibilities can be very different for young women on their own, women with children, older women, then maybe in the meantime of the different sessions, you realize, okay, we are not having the voice of the older women or other kind of group.
So it's a point we brought because not the older women, maybe the younger women. We don't have a lot of young women for many reasons. It's mainly, I think, because we are all more or less around between 40 and the oldest one is 80. The youngest one is 26. Okay, so that's the range. Of course, you cannot get everyone, and but we are offering different activities so everyone can recognize herself in the reading group or in the exchange of clothes, and maybe the young one, they go to the cineforum or the swap party. And as the activities are directly proposed by the volunteers, by the women, they have to build it. So we I'm the president of the association, but I'm the legal representative, meaning that I'm not trying to be the motor of that train. We are all together going. So if someone feels excluded, it's also empowerment to be able to say it. And some women who've never been, let's say, educated to take publicly the space and to speak, and maybe they feel less how would you say legitimate it's their path, it's their way. So we said that, I said that in the meeting. I said, okay, here there is a space for every and each of you, but it's your power and it's your responsibility to take it. And you cannot blame anyone if you don't say what you think. So it's not a lot of there is not a lot of mitigation and group management and facilitation. I think it's to reintegrate easy way to be together socially. You know, I worked in an association, organization before, in an NGO, international NGO, where at a certain point it was constantly on mitigation, the group, and moderation, and at a certain point it's like you lose your spontaneity. And now we want women to start learning how to take their space publicly in a small group where they decided to belong. But it's a kind of training, and empowering women or people, I think, is just by training them and offering ways of training, experiencing.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't know if Blanca, you wanted to.
Yeah, just to quickly. Thank you so much, Sarah. We have an experience and the same. Normally, we have difficulties to engage young people, and when I'm speaking with young people, is around 18, even younger, from 15 to 25, let's say. Yeah. And it was in a project for sustainable mountain areas, like local communities living in European mountain areas, and. When I was asking for mitigation measure, it was not foreseen in the project, but what we did was to the coordinator of the different living labs going to high schools to some awareness sessions just to present that these living labs were active, because we were not arriving to this kind of really young people, and we had some additional sessions and leaflets and a photo campaign in high schools, like how you take the best photo of your region, including a mountain, and these kind of actions were useful to get a few of them entering in the living lab as a voice, because they were, we are not. Sometimes we think we were included in the project the use of TikTok, Instagram, all this, just to be able to arrive to them, but it was not the case. And then at the end we were to the high schools in the area.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think the first step is to have a physical space. Once we have a physical space, then we can also go to high school and invite them to come and meet us. And that's a strategic, very important objective.
Thank you, Blanca. I think it's very interesting also if you want to share the link of the project or some lesson learned would be also good. And I would like to invite Poonam to ask her question.
Hi, thanks, Sarah. A very, very fascinating presentation. You raised the issue of not having a physical space. I wanted to know more about, you shared that it is a challenge, but does it also provide some level of advantage not having a physical space? And at the same time, how do you decide where do you want to have your meetings? At the same time, you also mentioned that you do certain activities like yoga and stuff. So where do you find this place? How do you organize this? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So it has advantages because you can practice empowerment and occupy physical social space when you don't have your own space, meaning that, and that I will answer to the second part of the question in the same time, because when you don't have your own space, you have to find a space every month, and the volunteer were proposing spaces, and sometimes it were physical spaces like bars in the middle of the place of the small village in the middle of the mountain. So we were arriving in maybe 30 women in a bar at maybe 7 o'clock at night, which is completely unusual, and putting the table, taking the space, and having maybe then after we always eat. We are still in South Italy, so after the meeting we eat and we drink happily. So and the people and men, because at that time there are men outside the house, were looking at us very strangely, like, who are they? And some women started to approach us because we were out, and they say, who are you? And they start to enter the big network, the Mondo Circe. So that's an advantage. And the fact that we also go and visit some space and some places and villages that some of us never went to. Even local women never went to another village because they are afraid to drive in the mountain road, for example, or in the highway road. Okay, that's a lot of blockage. And what was the other question?
No, it was connected to what you said, that how do you organize different activities, and you beautifully described how taking up space also ends up empowering people and also enables them to see different things, and at the same time enables people, women who are not connected to any group, to see, okay, this is possible and we could also do this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And when I talked about the lack of cooperation, it's also the lack of trust amongst women among each other. So when we talk about Chirche to women from Cilento who never heard about it, they say it's not possible that women are together and stay together and they don't start chit-chatting and they don't start gossiping and they are creating something together. They didn't believe it. So I think it's quite strong as a message.
Thank you. Thank you, Puna, for your question and comments, and thank you, Sara. So I think if there are no more questions, we can move on to the next session. We are perfectly on time. So yeah, thank you so much, Sara, and I wish you the best with the SERIGO, with your organization. And I hope you find your physical space. And now I would like to invite the next speakers. We are going to start with the session that is Building Pathways, Social Entrepreneurship, Skills Building, and Enable Policy Framework for Inclusion. And here we will learn from the experiences of two EU projects, from Wiser project that will be represented by Georgia. Let's see. Georgia, we can see you. And also, yeah, there you are. And also Blanca, that has already participated, that will represent Grass Ceiling project. And first of all, well, just an overview of the panel. Here we would like to deep on entrepreneurship as both an employment and empowerment strategy, the importance of skills development and tailored structure. And for that, we will hear this lesson learned. So first of all, Georgia will be presenting the program, the capacity building program that has been delivered in Wiser project. She's a researcher and trainer in CAMOP Human Rights Unit, and she has served as coordinator of the Friendly Space for Women and Girls. That is also a very good practice that also I know. And yeah, I think the floor is yours. So we will, you can share your presentation and we will start here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Marisol, for introducing me. Give me one moment to share my screen. And I believe everything is working.
Yeah, we can see the presentation.
Great. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Marisol already explained a bit the framework, but today I'm gonna describe in the next 10 to 15 minutes what we did in the Wiser project. So if you have any questions, we can discuss everything at the end of this presentation. But before we dive into the project, while I was preparing this presentation, I was trying to think the big why. What's the challenge? What is the data that we have from entrepreneurship, from social entrepreneurship, and especially in the migration field? When we were writing the Wiser project, it was very evident to us resources from Eurostat and the World Bank. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we realized that the unemployment rate is really, really high for migrant women during 2022. From where we have the data from the Eurostat, but especially it was even more concerning that only 9.4% of employed women are self-employed in general, not only the migrant women. And we realized that in countries like Greece, Poland, Italy, Belgium, this gender gap in migrant entrepreneurship is the same for the last 15 years. So we saw an opportunity here to work better and to strategically plan the core objectives of our project. The Wiser project started in 2024. This project ends this February in 1 month. So we worked a lot in order to promote social entrepreneurship to migrant women. And we wanted to create a network, a hub, a framework actually for migrant women, not only to practice social entrepreneurship, but to cultivate their skills, to network with other women, to network with other enterprises, and to foster their labor integration. So what we did was to launch 8 hubs. We call them Wiser hubs, where we provided group and individual consultations on how to develop and expand their skills and ideas. And that was really difficult to say. I have a dedicated slide on challenges, but it was very difficult because we work with women that they may have their own businesses back to their countries, but they couldn't practice in the national context that they were living in, or they may have one idea of what to do with their lives, but they didn't know how to plan this idea as a strategic plan for as a job actually. And we have women that they didn't know what the social entrepreneurship was, so we had to explain, to familiarize them with the concept and see if they are interested, if they want to work more on this topic. We did a lot of trainings on social entrepreneurship, on life competencies, on green competencies. So we tried to follow a holistic approach while we were working on developing the entrepreneurial skills. And what was really important to us was the development of a community of practice per country. So actually we had a group of experts in every context to provide ongoing support, to help us activate the local communities, not only the migrant communities, but also the municipalities and the locals, actually. And they also offered feedback on the hub activities. So there was this process of constant consultations between the project participants and the communities of practice. And of course, we try to do a lot of promotional events in order to attract more women and also to engage the local stakeholders. Shortly, I have prepared 2 very important numbers for us. One of them is that we try to attract and engage more than 100 migrant women through individual and group consultations. What was very important to us was that most of them, they stayed in the hub, so they didn't just come once and left, but they stayed in the hub throughout this pilot period from last April until today. So we built a relationship with them in most of the cases, and we try to connect them with mentors for their ongoing support and after the finalization of the project. And we tried and we trained more than 150 migrant women, and in the topics that I was explained before, these women, most of the time, was the same woman as in the previous number, but we saw in many cases, in many countries, that we had migrant women that came only for the training sessions. They didn't want to participate in any consultations, but they wanted to train themselves in these skills. And most of the time, these women were the women that they had already an idea and they knew how, let's say, set up a business, but they wanted to be trained more on specific aspects, let's say, social media or how to do budgeting. So most of the times, the women were the same, but we have unique women that they came only for the training sessions. We talked a lot about the challenges before, but here I also have a challenge slide, and these challenges were during this engagement phase, and what we faced and what the women faced while they were trying to reach the hubs and participate in the trainings. So of course, language was the biggest barrier in most of the cases. Many of the women were still learning the language of their host country, which made both business training and navigating the systems very difficult. Also, another barrier was that in certain hubs, we didn't have a common language, not even among the migrant women. So, for example, in our case, in Greece, we had at the same time in the same training room women that speak Arabic, that speak French, that speak Farsi. So it was really difficult for us to find a common language that would make possible to train them in such difficult and complicated sometimes topics like social entrepreneurship. We have also legal and administrative issues, especially considering the permit limitations, the residence permit limitations that limit what women can or cannot do. In most of the times, in most of the countries, the public service system is very overwhelming, very complicated. They didn't know what they could or couldn't do, where they could seek for support. So they didn't know how things are supposed to work or who can help them. As also, we have the same problem in the previous conversations of low motivation and engagement. We realized that most of the times women were exhausted from the daily survival mode, let's say. So this long-term social entrepreneurship idea felt impossible. So we realized that it wasn't, let's say, laziness or lack of engagement, but we saw that we had to work around also their personal issues. We have many women that they still live in abusive relationships. We also realized the systemic gaps, like the lack of childcare support. So we had workshops or sessions with the children present. So that was really difficult also for the women to concentrate in the sessions. And I also report here the social challenges such as the hate speech, which could be, and it was, traumatizing for women's confidence, because when you work with a woman for about 6 or 10 months, you realize that, and if they come very, very often, you realize what they face in their lives as a whole. So we had a woman that came back to us and we felt that they were empowered, but then they were coming and they were saying that someone bullied them in the metro, or they had a racist attack. So we were noticing setbacks in this empowerment process. So we were spending a lot of time discussing on these issues, on the systemic issue of the racism or discrimination, before moving on the social entrepreneurship idea. Because we talk about training, we realized that we had to navigate different learning styles, various educational backgrounds, significant differences in prior experience. Some women had a university degree and professional experience, others had limited formal education, but they were still very eager to learn about this idea. We had accessibility issues, mostly access to technology and a reliable internet connection. And many women didn't have equipment at home. And when we say equipment, we mean laptop or a PC, personal computer, because they all had mobile phones, but such trainings were really difficult to be followed using a mobile phone. So they needed something bigger, like a laptop. And something very, very important, and I think this is pretty self-evident, most participants were juggling work commitments, childcare, and other responsibilities, and they couldn't attend the consultations or the workshops very, very, very regularly. What we did, because we tried to work around these barriers in order to best support the women that they would like to continue the sessions. In most of the countries, we integrated language support lessons inside the program. In other countries, we translated the documents and the materials into multiple languages. This took a lot of time, as you can imagine. We had multilingual facilitators. For example, in our case, we had an Arabic-speaking group, and we hired an Arabic-speaking facilitator. We have female interpreters when we couldn't have multilingual facilitators. And for us, these interpreters were really important because they knew how to tackle and how to inform us about the cultural aspect and the different backgrounds. And they knew they had an idea on how to create also safe spaces. And when all these ideas couldn't happen, we used a lot Google Translate, DeepL, AI tools in order to facilitate translation. Of course, this wasn't the best option, but it was the last resort. Especially in Germany, when we were discussing about residency support, we had a partner that extending the qualification period by 3 months to give women more time. They contact the migration authorities to obtain the official confirmation that the residence permits were likely to be extended. So they worked a lot with the local authorities, and they tried to gain this information before moving forward to the consultations and the training. So this removed a major source of anxiety and uncertainty, and they built the program on a stable basis. When it was possible, we worked a lot with legal counselors, lawyers that could provide referrals, that could provide their support on legal documentation, because for us and also the women, it was really frustrating to be involved in an idea like this that has long-term commitment without knowing if they are gonna live in the country for the next months. What was also crucial was this holistic empowerment approach, especially in Greece. We tried to host parallel sessions on other topics such as sexual and gender-based violence, gender equality, and reproductive rights. At first, and I also had this discussion with one of my colleagues, these topics seem a little bit irrelevant to the entrepreneurship, but they directly affect women's ability to participate in the economic life. So it was really important for us to focus on general empowerment, holistic empowerment beyond social entrepreneurship. And in countries like Spain and Lithuania, there were sessions that were run by role models, meaning by migrant women that had launched their businesses. So the women had something tangible to see, a real role model, someone that did this before them. So the impact, the reported impact was higher. In terms of accessibility, I would try to run the training sessions in the hubs and reducing the travel barriers. In our case in Greece, we also provided the ticket, the transportation tickets to our space in order to make it as a motive for the women to come. And in some cases, we also hire pedagogues that could provide child support or recreational activities to their children. And we try to have these flexible participation options like online learning, but in most of the cases, the participation was offline and face-to-face. We did what we could with the different learning styles. We used videos, we used posters, we used activities. From my personal experience, the interactive element was the key. So we tried to organize activities before moving to the theory, and in order to make the information more understandable. And in order to create this safe space, we try to offer access to counseling services, and we also try to have a network of external partners from different fields, such as psychologists, social workers, lawyers, in order to support us when the women needed it. We have, in most cases, a WhatsApp group. So right now it's pretty active. The women themselves share information, resources, opportunities in the city, other training sessions. So we are really happy that this worked also very well. Right now, and I don't want to spend too much time, we are developing a set of recommendations. The document will be available in English by the end of February 2026, and you can save the link using this QR code. We try to work in different levels, in multiple levels, targeting policymakers and EU constitutions, practical guidance for organizations. And so here you can see in a glance what we are preparing. In some, for us, it's very important to have policy changes to reduce the administrative barriers that women have and invest in language support, as it's fundamental for any integration program. In most of the cases, we saw that the childcare support was a nice to have service, but it's actually very, very essential for women's participation. And we truly support the holistic support systems. We cannot work in isolation, and we cannot work only on one aspect of women's integration and actually mental health. So we should build on multiple levels while developing the business skills. This is from me, and I will stop sharing because I cannot see you, and let me know if you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Georgia, for the very nice presentation. I think it's very interesting how you had to adapt all the training program according to other topics that you were not planning in the beginning. But it's true that when you work with migrant women, you have to take everything into account. So it's very interesting, and I think we are looking forward to this report or policy report that, of course, we could learn. So now I would like to give the floor to the audience. We are behind the schedule, so maybe we can have one question and then move on to Blanca's presentation.
Yes, and Marisol, sorry, before moving forward, I would like to say that we are organizing a final event on the Wiser project on the 11th of February. And we are gonna, among other very, very interesting topics, we are gonna present the policy recommendations in detail. So we can share with you the invitation, and you can share it with the rest of the participants, because we believe that it's really important to have a physical meeting where all stakeholders can engage. Thank you.
Of course, yes. In fact, we'll be participating because we are going to present the COP as well that we are doing in SERIGO in the event. So we will share the information with all the attendees. We will share in the COP community as well.
Great.
So I think there is one question in the chat for you. So it's, could you please go into more deep about the community of practice, describing the selection criteria, rules, processes, which we can implement in our own work. I think you said the communities of practice are at local level, no?
Yes.
In countries. Okay.
Yes. So I would like to start with the fact that each implementing country work differently. So I can speak on for the Greek community of practice. So the first step that we did was having an open call. We tried to provide the opportunity of participation not only to local authorities and NGO members, but also to migrant communities and representatives. So we first worked with an open call. We had the first few meetings. Of course, it was pretty clear that we had dropouts. So the selection criteria, actually, they weren't selection criteria. We had this open call. We saw at the end of the work that the ones that stayed were mostly people that were investing in migrants integration, and it was mostly people working in NGOs and in the field of migration. We wanted to have more and higher representation from migrant communities, but it's pretty clear for us why this cannot happen, especially with the situation in Greece and in Europe in general, and the lack of support in smaller NGOs, collectives, and organizations. So it was impossible for representatives from migrant organizations to participate very regularly. The rules were made by them, so they were actually how we are going to work from now on, how regular the meetings should be. We created a common folder to exchange documents. We try to have meetings once per month. And what we did actually was to open the community of practice to places, to locations outside Athens. So we had this local focus, but because Athens accepts and has migrants directly from the islands, where we have, let's say, the hotspots, it was really important to us to work also with participants and locals from the islands, because we wanted to have this collaborative work and to prepare better our approach in Athens while integrating and supporting migrants. I can speak for hours. I don't know if I have that much time about the communities of practice, but it's really complicated, and it needs a lot of effort from the organizers, let's say from the project staff, to keep the discussion going, because you realize in our case it was all the members were volunteers, so we had to be very flexible and to provide motives in order for them to participate. So it was a challenge.
Great, thank you so much for all the explanations. So now I would move on to the next speaker, that is Blanca, also in the same session. She's going to introduce another project that is grass sealing. So I would like to introduce Blanca. Blanca is a policy expert and project manager at EIDL. She's a colleague. She's working in projects oriented towards rural development, agriculture, sustainable food system, and women. And she's going to tell us more about how inclusive women-led innovation approaches can foster empowerment and skills development, and the lesson learned in grass sealing EU project that she's been working in policy mainly, if I'm not wrong. So Blanca, the floor is yours. You can share your screen as well.
Thank you so much. I hope you see full screen.
Perfect. Yes.
Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Blanca Casares, and I'm very pleased to be here with you at this SERIGO COP webinar. Today, I will be speaking about the policy pathways to strengthen women innovation in rural areas, European rural areas, based on the results of the Grass Sealing Horizon Europe project. At EIDL, Just a little bit of our work as an organization. Gender equality is a cross-cutting condition for sustainable rural development and innovation. Our work consistently shows that when women are empowered to participate fully in rural economies and innovation systems, communities, the whole community become resilient, inclusive, and future-oriented. Here I added different policy-oriented publications that examine the role of women in rural development and innovation. You will have the presentation, and you can explore the different pieces of our analysis in the latest years. And over the past years, we have organized a range of knowledge sharing and awareness raising activities. For example, we hosted an ADL talk. You have also the link. Aimed to give visibility to women, to people behind the public policies. In this specific piece of information, women living and working across rural areas in Europe, as farmers, but also entrepreneurs, innovators, caregivers, educators, artists, doctors, and community leaders, majors, and you can explore their individual initiatives and different information about their work. But entering in grass ceiling, gender equality in rural and agricultural innovation systems has been a 3 years Horizon Europe project, and just finished in December 2025, aimed to empower rural women and increase the number of socio-ecological innovations led by women in agriculture, but also in the rural economy and communities. We follow a participatory action research approach with multiple partners and 9 living labs. In each of the 9 living labs, we had around 10 women that were our innovators. A total of 72 participating on them. The focus and the level of women innovations in the grass ceiling in these 72 women barriers. Beyond the agriculture sector, several labs showcase non-agricultural innovation, and here I present in more detail 3 inspiring women, but also in the website of the project you have like human histories of each of them. And for example, Eileen Barron from Ireland is transforming how agro business speak to the world through green agri-marketing. Rosangela in Italy brings culture to the heart of rural life with Confabulare, and using book and exploring nature landscape to connect children in the rural roots with imagination. And Mark Killen in Norway, through her pastry business, Frunelik, shows us the power of creativity and entrepreneurship, building something sweet, local, but deeply rooted in her community. And as I said, all of them are having, it's not an individual initiative, it's really a community initiative. I normally use this because for me it's quite insightful. When we compare these 3 maps, official maps from Commission. I want to show that regions in the European Union with higher gender equality show stronger innovation performance if we cross the first 2 maps, highlighting the link between inclusion and competitiveness and territorial vitality. And it crosses innovation performance with the Female Achievement Index, but also the total population chain in NAS3 in the level of rural areas. Then we see a pattern through innovation, higher female achievement index and less decline of territorial population. And for me, this is really important to have into consideration for policymaking. What we have learned, first, this has been presented so far, different barriers and needs for women, cultural norms and stereotypes as a persistent barrier to gender equality. This influence access to resources, participation and representation. We also saw how gender in the legal frameworks remains unevenly addressed in common agricultural policy and different sectorial policies, and how data gaps and the lack of disaggregated information when we cross gender and rural level make difficult to design an effective policy. Employment and financial needs, as well as female representation in decision making, continue to be areas requiring attention. Access to land and ownership of resources is still limited to many women. With women-led rural innovation, so potential for this support. On the positive side, training, mentoring, and networking opportunities are growing, as are digitalization and connectivity efforts. And finally, we have seen importance of focus the lens on services infrastructure that ensure the well-being and work-life balance, especially for younger generation of women and trying to solve the problems of the population. EIDL, as Marisol said, we have led the policy work, the work package on policy in this kind of project. We have developed a policy recommendations and a roadmap for inclusive transitions, synthesizing project learnings into actionable guidance for policymakers. The deliverable was submitted last summer, and the roadmap is structured around 7 focus areas, but I think it's quite important for you to have a look to 2 of them, the one on financial support and investment and the one on innovation and inclusive rural transformation. Based on these focus areas, we have identified key policy needs and a set of opportunities, policy opportunities and actions, concrete actions for each of them. And also we have split it based on legal basis, like by 2025, Commission will articulate a EU generational renewal strategy based on legal targets. All these actions in 3 milestones, 2025, 2030 and 2035. And some examples, for example, for 2025 are articulate a startup and scale-up strategy for rural, because has been approved last year, redefine the innovation concept for all the policies. For 2030, develop gender-sensitive financial tools, gender equality in public contracts, or gender in smart specialization strategies that Commission has and Member State needs to articulate. And for 2035, multifunctional rural service centers. To complement these recommendations, we develop an online policy toolkit, has the format of a demonstrator, then you can enter and explore and articulate all the tools. It's composed of interconnected tools designed to facilitate policy development, implementation, evaluation. And at the top of these tools are the data strategy and integration rural women innovation compass, which provide a structured way to explore data. To develop this, we analyze 50 monitoring systems, official monitoring systems by the different regulations like CAP, cohesion funds, and other funds. We identify around 100 indicators across different domains, and then we articulate it in our own compass to different stakeholders understand all the trends in the different indicators. And this is complemented by other tools. You see a gender proofing template, a benchmarking template, a checklist for policymakers to design policies, a foresight exercise that I invite you really to explore and use. As I'm nearing to the end of my presentation, for which are opportunities to support entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem for women from the policy lens. First, at the EU strategy level, there is a clear opportunity to better align the vision for agriculture and food, that is for 2040, the long-term vision for rural areas, and the EU gender equality strategy that was approved last year, but now this needs to be articulated at member state level. For the common agricultural policy, remains still the possibility to make amendments in the current CAP strategic plans, but also better design the next round post-2027. At national level again, integrate gender responsive funding into strategies that we know different countries has, like Spain, Italy, for the population, for just transition, for smart rural development, for generational renewal. They are regional, national, different strategies that needs to have mandatory the gender lens. The national social climate plans that also were designed last year, that are perfect enablers for women entrepreneurship through care, mobility, digital access services, and so on. And as I said, member states are going to start to define the next round of EU funds programs. That is going to be a single one. And this needs to have gender responsive financial instruments, metrics, target, and in a mandatory way. And just to finish, I invite you to continue with us, even if the project finished last month. We have been, during these 3 years, animating the European Policy Forum with more than 150 participants from 27 member states, different policy sessions like SERIGO COPs. But we have in the rural path community groups a specific group for women in rural areas. And we are going to give continuity to this forum in this platform that I invite you to join. I will include the link on the chat. And with this, I finish. I hope it was not longer than expected.
It was perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Blanca. Also really insightful. We also have to work in policy in SERIGO, and we will have to develop also some policy toolkits. So I think we can bring some lesson learned from your work in Brazil. And in the community of the Rural Pact, there is also one in social economy and another in migration that we also try to participate and be active there, sharing some knowledge. So we are arriving to the end of the event, but I would like to just give the floor to one question for Blanca or for Georgia, as this was the panel. So you can raise your hand or write a comment in the chat. Very quick. And if not, I would like to move on to the final session, because we have only 6 minutes left. So thank you so much, Blanca and Georgia. And if the attendees still have some question or comments, they are free to write in the chat, and you can reply there. So let's move on with the final session. That is not really a presentation, but just a summary or takeaways and reflection of today's event. So I would like to give the floor to my colleague Alexandra, that she's going to speak about that. And while she's the thematic coordinator for employment, entrepreneurship, and inclusion at EIDL, she acts as a critical listener today, and she's as well the project manager of SERIGO. So Alex, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marisol. And well, first of all, thank you to all our panelists today. This was really, really, really interesting. And I can see that from all of the interactions and how many people we'll have with us today. Yes, so my goal here in 5 minutes is just to reflect a little bit on what was said today. And to start, I think I'd like to remind us of the overarching questions that we had for this webinar. which were how do community-led grassroots initiatives support women's confidence and sense of agency? How can they push gender equity? Second, how can we make sure that skills development programs are actually fit for purpose for women in situation of or at risk of exclusion? And then finally, can we develop gender responsive rural development strategies and policies? I extrapolated a little bit from the ones that Marisol presented at the beginning, but this were really the core ideas here. And hearing from everyone who spoke today, a few things came out. So about grassroots actions and basically empowerment efforts. First thing is grassroots women's and women support organizations seem really especially well placed to understand local needs, reach those that are hardest to reach, contribute to social cohesion, and also change mindsets. I think that also came out quite a lot. But those localized targeted action are particularly effective from what I hear today when it focuses on community building, economic independence, fighting loneliness and social isolation, but a lot on leadership and self-belief, on mutual support and network building, on skills development with first and foremost language. We also mentioned the use of role models. I think this we mentioned only once today, but this has been in the past something that's came out quite regularly in our discussions. I think something that was across the board is that whether you are offering a support mechanism or training, it needs to be agile and flexible, adapting the programs to the situation of the women, through their constraints. And then that way, you can actually address operational, behavioral, financial obstacles, which are often underpinned by social norms. And I think something else that came out was entrepreneurship as a means for emancipation and empowerment as much as a means to potentially earn a living. However, the impact of these initiatives, as I understand, is constrained. So there is chronic underfunding, lack of institutional supports. Sarah mentioned it a few times. And all of you mentioned the issues with infrastructure, especially transportation, but also financial constraints of the women themselves or family constraints. And one thing that Melanie, you said, which I think is very important to say again, is there is not a lack of willingness or ability, but a lack of support. And finally, when it comes to policy, I want to repeat what Blanca said, that the EU regions with the highest gender equality are also the most innovative and the ones that gain population. And very important, bearing in mind that in many rural regions, women tend to live in much higher proportions than men. So I wanted to remind that. You also said, Blanca, that when women are empowered fully to participate in economic activities, the whole community is more resilient. And I kind of want to rephrase this also and say that we could apply this and say, when women are empowered fully to participate in policy making, then policies are more adapted to the needs of the whole community. I'll stop here because we have 1 minute left, and I would like to thank everyone again for their contributions today.
Thank you so much, Alexandra, and thank you to all the speakers for the very inspiring presentations, and also to all the attendees, because it was participating in the chat, and I'm so grateful for that. I learned a lot today, and I hope you also learn with us. So now, before we finish, I would like to share with you just a few more things. So first of all, save the date for our next webinar. It will be also framing the SERIGO COP, and the topic this time will be older adults, so aging together, building connected communities in European rural areas. And there we will introduce also another SERIGO pilot, and we will have, of course, also so many inspiring presentations from external. So it's the 18th of March. You can register now. In fact, I will ask my colleague Anne to share the link in the chat, so you can already join there. And also remind you that you can become a member of the COP if you want to get access to SERIGO insights and results, it's open to everyone, and we have a platform in which we share knowledge and all type of useful information regarding social economy, rural areas, and social inclusion. And finally, we also have a feedback survey that I think also also Anne share in the chat. So we would like to hear from you. What do you think about the webinar? Also give us some insights to improve. And why not, if you have other suggestions about topics or webinars to be covered in the webinars and in the COP events, let us know your suggestion and ideas. We will be very happy to organize those. So thank you again, everyone, and have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.